morning, good morning. All attendees and all the AI note takers. Now we all becoming very fancy with our note takers. Very welcome on Xpello's monthly property webinar. Lizanne, I see that I'm looking for removing the waiting room. That nobody has to wait and everybody can just join us.
Dis hierdie donderse dit moet nou dis waarvan die
Maria, it sounds that you are not muted, and I agree with you about the weather. So I'm going to quickly go through mute. Lizanne, I'm making you a co-host as well, Lizanne. If you can help me just to mute whoever that needs to be muted and allow everybody in that's supposed to be in the morning. Please say good morning. Tell us where you're from. I'm seeing some regular faces that we often see. It's always great to see our regulars. It's always great to see some new people online. And as we always do, we want to share some knowledge and what we're seeing in the market. Kathy, it's always great to speak to you, and it's welcome from Pretoria. I hope you guys are having some blue light sky. And Amanda from Sedgefield, you are doing very well. Oh, amazing. Aldi Properties, you guys have been doing amazing. I've seen your social media. Always a lot of fun. And all our regular Marinda, Robin, it's great to see everybody online. Now, today is a very exciting day. And I just realized we started without our music. Yeah, that's when we know things are going great. Is if I can't wait to was I muted? Yeah. Guys, there's weird stuff going on with Zoom today. I don't know why they're doing it this way. So, but let's then start properly. It's officially 9:03. Good morning and welcome to Xpello's monthly webinar. I'm Elise Leroux, I'm the CEO, and sometimes I get these presentations and everything right, sometimes I don't. But today is going to be absolutely amazing. It's not going to be a waste of your time. You're going to end off this hour with some fantastic information. So we are going to speak to Esteani from Lightstone. Today, everybody goes, yeah, Lightstone is only for sales agents. That is actually not the fact at all. They offer something absolutely amazing that everybody from us can use. And before we jump in and I do a proper introduction with Johan, sorry. I don't know why people keep on muting me. It seems as at the moment everybody goes in. Lizanne, just check that you don't accidentally mute me, maybe. So sorry about this. Okay, legal tip of the month. We are gonna ask Johan. Johan, please come up. Johan is our team leader of the legal department. And thank you, Johan. Over to you.
Good morning, Elise. Good morning, everyone. And of course, good morning to our guest, Lightstone. I'm just going to jump into it. I think one of the most over we're seeing at the moment isn't market related. It's ink ownership details. If the name on the lease agreement doesn't actual, it can undermine enforcement completely. We've seen breach processes, cancellations, simply because the wrong party. And I mean, it can prolong your eviction for months, and we've seen this in the courts happening. So you can have a lease agreement, but if it's in the wrong name, it's a problem. I'm going to use examples, of course, because we love a practical example. Owner is a company or a trust, but the lease agreement reflects a natural person on the lease agreement. Now, this is a challenge because with these jurisdictions, proper authority is required to contract. So, therefore, a property report is very important. So, his tip is ownership verification object. It should be ongoing.
Yeah, I think, Siobhan, and she said specifically that in the beginning, people get so hurried up and they just take the information. And by not doing it correctly in the very beginning, it can have detrimental effects when you proceed with the legal steps. And you may cause a delay for 1 month for us to start the process, but that actually causes a 3 months delay in elections. So, Johan, fantastic tip. Thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate that. Now, of course, on the legal, then Lizanne is our next tip of the day or check-in. Now, Lizanne is our team leader of the application and client services department, and we often still do get questions as to what do we need and all of that. Lizanne, we're focusing today on owners.
Good morning, Elise, and everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. So from the applications department, the tip of the month is we would like to ensure a seamless communication process with the landlord. That is why it's so very important to have the correct information, email address, contact number. So if you are an agency and you do manage the property and you send applications directly to us, when you send the application, you can purely just add the mandate, or in the body of your email, you can add the landlord's contact details for us to add to the application. If you upload the application on the portal, you have the option to just add the information on the portal, and yes, and then we can start to process the application.
Thank you very much, Lizanne. And as always, the fact that we always try to keep administration to the very bare minimum. So as you said, if the owner's details is not in the lease agreement, send it in the email or just attach your mandate and we will actually extract that information. Lizanne, thank you to you and your team. I know you guys are always able to assist. So thank you very much for that. Now, today is going to be an absolutely awesome day, and I am so blessed. Oh, you see, now I'm starting to write. Guys, I promise you I had coffee today, but it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Esteani Marx. He's the Business Development Executive from Lightstone. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting Esteani more and more, well, often at these events. And when I listened to her presentations, I was absolutely wowed, Esteani, because, you know, I also did the same approach. I thought I knew what Lightstone did. And I thought, well, you know, that's a salesperson type of thing, and it doesn't play a role. And after listening to some of your presentations, I was absolutely amazed. So thank you very, very much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Elise. It's always a pleasure to be part of your webinars and to share information. I think, you know, that's the important part for us, is to understand our market and to share, you know, what is available. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Esteani. Now, I'm also not going to jump in. And everybody online, you are welcome to drop a question in the chat box. As we speak, we will mention it, or at the end, we will address any of the questions. And of course, we look for those people that participate. So at the bottom of your screen, you see Inga's already on it. I love it, Inga. There is a reaction button. And you are welcome to press that reaction button. If you love something, please react. If you don't agree, please send a frowny face or anything to that effect. We love to see your participation. These sessions should be fun, not just the in-person ones. Then we have to do the best we can. Now, Esteani, please tell me a bit about Lightstone, because as I said, everybody thinks they know. But then I realized we don't always know.
Awesome. All right. So Elise, I'm just going to share my slide because it's just always good to see something visual when we speak. So yeah, if you can just give confirmation
Stop
that you
sharing.
can see it.
Okay. You'll be able to share now. Let's see.
Can
Okay.
you
I
see my
stopped.
presentation?
Yes, your screen
Alright.
is starting to share. Thank you very much, Esteani.
Alrighty. Okay, so I think for today, I thought, Lightstone, yeah, we can speak almost for an entire day around the system itself. So I thought to break it down into a little bit, pieces of or compartments of information that would be relevant in terms of the webinar. So Lightstone, the system itself was developed 20 years ago, actually. Started off within the banking realm where we helped or assisted the banks to understand value of real estate or properties in South Africa. But then very soon thereafter realized that, it's actually very suitable for the real estate market because there's different elements that the estate agents at the time, whether it be sales or rentals, needed in terms of information. And we were able to package that in such a way that consumers or estate agents and people within the property market are able to use that information. So that's where Lightstone sort of started from. And our main base of information is the deeds that we have in South Africa. So as everybody on the call today or on the webinar today understands that every property transaction within the country is registered within the deeds office. And we work primarily off of the deeds office. So that's our true source of information for real estate. And the way we've packaged it in the Lightstone Toolkit itself is to assist us to understand property. So property in terms of an individual property, to understand our market, the market that we work in, to understand the area that we work in, and also to understand values of property. So, first of all, it's super important to know the property. So whether you are, renting or selling, it doesn't really matter. You need to understand the property and the dynamics of the property that you're actually working with, where it's situated, how big it is, who's the owner, and all of the information that actually relates to that property itself. And then you can go a little bit deeper in understanding your market. So for a real estate agent, I think this is so relevant for especially for rentals as well. You get lots of applications of people needing a property to stay in. And, the role of a rental agent is not just only to find or to place a tenant, but it's actually to find a property that is most suitable for that tenant, because there's sometimes multiple properties that would be suitable for an individual. And if you're able to understand the market and understand your area, it could help you to actually place a tenant in an area that is most suitable to them. That's client service, not just only to make a sale or to get a person into a property. But knowing your market is also very important. And later in the webinar today, we'll speak a bit about trends, what's happening in the real estate market for rentals necessarily. But if you understand the micro environment of the area that you're working in and the market itself, it also helps you to understand, how to position your opportunities within the market specifically. And there we look at, demographics. So what's the demographics of an area? Is it older people? Is it younger people? Is the demographics of an area changing over time? Is it younger people moving in? Is it older people moving in? So what's happening in that market specifically? And then your area, you work in terms of your focus. So as you understand, in real estate, we can't work necessarily in an entire town. It's just too big an area. So you want to actually focus a little bit more on the area that you yourself as an individual agent are focusing on, and understanding that market a little bit better. So let's say you are a rental agent that specializes in sectional title rentals. You want to go and understand, what is the opportunities in your area for sectional titles. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to demarcate an area for yourself if you're focusing on a sectional title, if the area itself doesn't have enough units to provide opportunities for you. So that's the kind of information that I think is so vital for every rental agent to have at hand. And things change, so you need to see, how the market's changing, how the area is changing, and being able to track that over time. And then finally, just knowing your value, knowing the value of the properties in your area, because many a time, you have tenants that becomes owners, or vice versa, owners that becomes tenants. So you would also be able to understand the value of real estate in your specific market. So yeah, Elias, I think just in a nutshell, that is more or less where we are in terms of what Lightstone does, and what the offering is in terms of rental agents specifically.
And you are if you go to the Lightstone platform, you can get all of these reports. I saw some fantastic stats, and I didn't, I focused so hard not to do this because it's so interesting to see exactly what's going in your environment. And when we had the conversation, we actually said that we're seeing, touching on the trends that, people are, we think it's a buyer's market, the rentals is going to go down, but that's the time when you get more landlords, because if they start buying, it means you get more investors. If you have more investors, you have more rental properties. So it's not oh no, we're the ones that's going to be at the end of the road because all the sales agents are going to make the money. What are you seeing with the trends?
All right, so let me share my screen again. Sorry, there we go. So look, I mean, as we all know, things change in the market on a constant basis. I mean, just get into the slideshow presentation mode. Elise, so maybe just before I go into the trends, one of the aspects that you've just mentioned also, and Johan actually alluded to that as well as Lazan, is property ownership and the verification of that. So, it's so important. I think so many deals have really fell through because of incorrect, information on whether it be the mandate, whether it be the lease agreement, so verification of ownership is crucial. And, if you are on the Lightstone system, you can also validate, who's the right owner of that property, what is the correct address of that property. And you can do that either on just a normal property report, or you can actually go in certain instances where there's maybe disputes, you can do an actual live deed to also go and double check what is currently, how is it registered in the deeds office, and just get that final step of verification. So just to give that confirmation as well.
Esteani, before you now jump to the next one, if we can just go back and we quickly look at your screen. So what is absolutely amazing here is I see the title deed details. Does it reflect the actual street address on this as well? Sorry, I'm squinting. It's only got the deeds office details, huh?
Yeah, so in the deeds office itself doesn't register addresses. So that's the interesting part. So in the deeds office, they only register the earth number and the township. So we as Lightstone over the last 20 years have built our own, that we call National Address Dictionary, to be able to map addresses to urban, to properties. So that's why it's crucial to actually look at both. If you do need to get a deed for verification, you can also then refer back to Lightstone system to get the address, because you will not get that on the deed itself.
And I see on your system there it says Google Maps and Street View, which I think is absolutely amazing, because I assume if you click on it, it takes you to Google Maps and you can go and say, oh, yes, that is indeed the property I was at.
Yes.
And yes, that if I look at the Street View, that is exactly the house where I met the owner to the property I need to lease out. So that's very, very valuable.
Absolutely, Elise. And it's also on the system. The one other element I think people sometimes forget about is if you get an inquiry for a property to be let out, it may not in all instances be the actual owner. So what I always recommend is as a rental agent to go into the Lightstone system, go and double check the ownership details, and on the system go and get the contact details for that owner to actually verify, because we've seen many instances where properties are being, I don't know what the right term would be, but being used as for collateral to be able to rent it out, but it doesn't actually, the individual doesn't even have the mandate to do that. So it protects both the owners of those properties as well as you as the rental agent, because you don't necessarily know if you don't validate and verify the ownership. So absolutely. And then also ownership split. It doesn't help you to go through all the trouble to get a mandate, to get a lease agreement, and you didn't realize that there's actually two owners on the property. So there's multiple elements that I think is so important for rental agents to make sure of before you actually just proceed and don't have all the details at hand.
Esteani, and you won't believe it now, especially with the two ownership. We have a matter that we dealt with now here in Xpello. It was husband and wife, and we proceeded with the breach process and the eviction. And we were so happy that we got them to voluntarily vacate on the Friday, and we got confirmation from the property practitioner, yes, the tenant is out. And then the next moment we get a call, but there's people in the property. Then what happened is the husband and the wife was busy getting divorced. And the moment we got the defaulting tenants in, the wife went and placed new tenants with a new lease agreement and everything. And so we don't know if she's got a property practitioner helping her. But we said, well, we can't evict those people because they've got a lease agreement. And I mean, that's a total different dispute. But I mean, these type of things happen. And I think especially for rental agents, I've seen this happen more than once. Please, when you do get your mandate, please get it from both parties, because I know they in the beginning they love each other and they go, no, he deals with everything, or no, she deals with everything, and then there's fights, and now it goes down, yeah, but I want half of the money, or it should go into my bank account, or even it can go as far and say, you do not have the authority to lease out this property because I never agreed to it. I've seen those extremes as well, hey, Esteani. It's absolutely shocking. And then the poor agent is sitting in the middle going, yeah, but everybody was so happy and they assured me it was fine. Please look after yourself. If the search says there's two owners, let both of them sign your mandate. That nobody ever can come and question your authority, because you're going to lose out on so much if that happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we're passionate about those type of things, because I think it's something so small, and we just assume everything is going to go fine, and then it doesn't go fine. And Tebogo is asking a question and says, if the ID number is wrong on the deed search, which ID number do we write on the OTP mandate or lease agreement? So Tebogo, I'm not going to mention anything on the OTP, but on your mandate, the first thing is you have to identify the person giving you the instructions. So if it is, and I'm going to sum up pick here on Mr. John Smith and James Smith, because they're in front of us, and where the number 123 maybe got switched around on 321, because remember, people do make typing errors. As long as you've verified and you are sure that it still says James John Smith, and where there's a mistake on the ID number, maybe just let them give an affidavit that there's no dispute on that. On the lease agreement, it's very important to please write in the street address. So just to have an address on a lease agreement is not going to help when you send out your invoices, or even if you send out the sheriff. Because Esteani, what I've also seen is when I was still in practice, we had an eviction. And when we did the searches, we didn't realize that the two properties was actually switched. And these two neighbors didn't even know it. For some odd reason, something somewhere went wrong. So person A was in person B's property and it was absolutely a nightmare. So in a lease agreement, make sure you properly identify. You have, as for example, as 96D Mimosa Street. On the lease agreement, you can have the earth number, but it's not that important as long as the property can be identified. If you have different units on a property, please make sure you number them, because your deed search and those things is not going to, they identify the whole property. They're not going to say cottage or flat or main house or anything. So please, on your lease agreement, please add those details that you can identify. So it must be as easy as you give me the address as it's in your lease agreement, and I must be able to go to the property and I must be able to see. I shouldn't guess which one are you referring to. So with lease agreements, I think that is quite important. And then you've got the property details on here as well, owner details. The bond is very important as well, because it reminds you that your landlord needs their rent on time. And please also keep in mind, maybe ask your landlord if the rent that is relevant to the area, because if you look at certain areas, you can only get, for example, 8,000 Rand rent, because that's what's happening in that area. Esteani, I don't know if you ever seen that in some of the stats. And so now they've got a bond, but they need 10,000 Rand. Please have that conversation with your owner. I think that is something so vital, and that is what makes you a real property practitioner that can justify your commission or your payment that you get every month, is because it's your duty to guide your landlord. Because Esteani, we work with a lot of investors, and I know we attend all of these things, and they're very excited and hopeful when they want to go buy. I don't know if they always do those comparisons.
No, absolutely. Look, I mean, the understanding the cost for the landlord, and as opposed to the rental that they can achieve in a specific area, is vital. So agreed. You know, as a property professional and property practitioner, you should be able to advise your landlord, you know, what is a suitable rent for that area, and vice versa towards your tenant as well. I mean, they wouldn't want to pay more for what they are getting. So, you know, it should be advised either way for an appropriate rental in a specific area for a specific kind of property.
And Esteani, I know we didn't really prep this, but she's doing fantastic on script. Because she's a professional. So on the first part, especially you said, you know, placing, knowing your area, what's happening in your area. And as we were talking now, I realized we even had a matter where we did an eviction for an owner, and then the owner said they were going to sell. And my question to the owner was, okay, I agree, because usually we you know, keep your property, lease it out. And I said, why did you have this property in the first place? Was your intention to have it as an investment? And they said, no, we stayed there, we moved, and instead of selling it, and then we said, but the value, the rental that you're going to get there is not a proper investment property. So rather sell that property and go buy a property in an area which will be an investment. So those areas with your young people, the bond is not going to be very high, but there's a big demand. You know, there's various those type of things. Like you said, the reports you can have to see what's happening in the area. So there you can get, I know there's a lot of agents on here that does sales and rentals. There you get a sale and a rental, and you have a loyal landlord, because Esteani, you're an investor, I'm an investor, Armand is an investor. We appreciate those type of guidance.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, you know, understanding an area, like I said in the beginning, it's not just about placing people. It's placing people in an area that's suitable to them as well. Because especially in rentals, it's, you know, it's a long-term relationship. People don't want to move every year. You know, so placing a person that's in an area that's suitable for them, looking at their lifestyles as an example. So what are their lifestyles? Is it a young couple that wants to move into an area, possibly have children and put them in a school? Or is it a more established family that doesn't necessarily care about schools, but more around, what kind of shopping centers are around, or, what is the amenities that's going to be fit for their kind of a lifestyle. So, I remember a story once of an estate agent that assisted a couple to place them in an estate, and they had two options. They had an option, I can't remember the names, but option A and option B. So option A was a very nice property, but there wasn't really so much to do for their little ones. And option B looked as though, there's lots to do for the little ones. They can ride their bikes. And the estate agent then, assisted them in securing option B, only to find after they've moved in that riding the bike in that specific area was not permissible. So, it's such a sad story for me because, people have a dream around a lifestyle that they want to attain in a specific area. And if you as the estate agent are not able to advise them correctly in terms of what they can and can't do, it may actually have a negative impact on that dream. And, as it is, it will reflect back to you as the agent, never mind, the owner or the tenant that didn't read the rules or didn't read, the information sent to them. So, specifically in a sectional title as well, go and understand the dynamics of that sectional title. Is it an older generation typically, residing in a sectional title when those small kids would make, noise or ride their bikes, and it wouldn't necessarily be comfortable for you as an older person that you need to place to actually stay in that sectional title, or vice versa. So yeah, Elise, I think it's important to understand the dynamics, and also, is it an area where people frequently move in and out? Why? What is happening there? So yeah, I think just understanding data and looking at the data itself can generally and in most instances guide decisions that may have a lifelong impact on an individual.
Yeah, and Esteani, I love what we are talking here because I think it's so relevant. There's two things that came to mind immediately was, I see two type of things happening. Either you have somebody, for example, when I bought my first property, I think it's almost now 17 years ago, I still have that agent. I mean, she took us to so many properties, and we actually, the property that we ended up buying, initially we dismissed it immediately. And at the end, I remembered we looked at about 7 properties. She said, I know we went past the first one, but let's just go in because I know now what you guys want, what you're looking for. Just go have a look. And we bought it. And up to now, it's just that trust. We greet each other in the shop. It's fantastic. But then I also heard horror stories where people say, listen, that agent was so bad that if I talk of that person, it's actually to discourage people not to just use that person, but that brand. So it goes so much bigger than just that person. So I think as a principle in those type of things, that plays a big role to know that, that's the impact you can have. And I know we are so super busy, and it's the only, I might be jumping around, but there's so much information, and sometimes, we don't have time to go sit down and have a look at things. But you actually Lightstone actually sent out a very nice newsletter. I think it was this week or late last week with some information.
Yeah, I mean, we send out newsletters twice a month, actually, once a month on the toolkit and once a month in terms of what's happening in the market. So again, yeah, absolutely, Elise, upskill yourself as an individual to know what's happening in the market, in real estate altogether. And, we can never have enough information. And not only because, we don't have the time, but things are changing every year. We can, tomorrow we can wake up and things have changed again. So understanding how things are changing in the market is also vital for you to be able to advise your clients. So yeah, I mean, we do send out newsletters on a monthly basis. So people are welcome to go and subscribe for those and get that information. We generally, focus on things like a specific town, what's happening in the town, or we focus on a demographic, what's happening in terms of a demographic. And the last piece that we actually released is speaking about, the age of buyers. And I thought I would share some slides today as well, speaking about that, what's happening in the market. And as you can see here, the age of buyers have, people, the age in which people are actually acquiring real estate has really shifted over the last 10 years, and it's continuing to shift in the fact in the way of people are becoming much older, or will be much older when they start acquiring real estate. And as you can see in the data here, 10 years ago, the majority of people acquiring real estate was 30 years old. Currently, it's about 38 to 40 years only when people start entering the market. So in that gap is where, people still need to stay somewhere. So not buying a property doesn't mean they're not staying somewhere. They need to rent somewhere. So it's a real shift in the market itself. And it's not only within South Africa, it's a global shift where the rentals market is actually booming at the moment. And even so for sellers, as you can see there, people are much older that now in terms of when they actually sell their properties, and they hold on to their properties much longer. So they don't necessarily move around that much. So yeah, it's very interesting, and to actually look at what the market does, how it shifts, and then what opportunities does that actually open up for you as a rental agent. And then just looking at some of these things and how it's changing. So the first one is the significant change in the number of young people buying, as I've just mentioned. They're showing the shift in terms of the ages. But if we look at the number of those individuals buying, it's declining actually year on year. And why that's important for us to understand is, what is it going to look like in the future? Is it going to be that individuals will still own properties and rent it out, or will it be something like where there's more institutional owning real estate, renting it out? Because we need to understand also why people are not buying, or the young people are not buying, and there's various reasons, amongst other being affordability. So yes, they cannot afford to pay necessarily for the transfer costs and the cost related to acquiring property, but also the cost of real estate itself. So their only option is to then rent properties. And I think again it opens up a great market for rentals, to be able to assist those individuals to actually stay somewhere.
That's amazing, and it helps so much, because I'm sitting and thinking that when somebody even wants to sell their property, and to consider whether it's a rental property or not just on demanders, to know what's the trend's going to be. I'm seeing more and more people, these big houses. I see more and more families are staying together. People are staying in their houses because they just can't afford to move out. It's you're having people staying in the house, and a couple of families. More and more people are having a whole. It's the grandmother, the grandfather, the children, the grandchildren, everybody staying there, and it doesn't just have benefit of assisting with saving the cost, but also the support. Grandmother helps out with the kids, it's those type of thing. And I think where we were very often very isolated, I think we're moving bit back to that. And yeah, I mean, the Baldwin and the big institutes, we're having all of these developments that make sense for the areas. I mean, I've heard some of the rentals, and even if you just compare the rentals in the provinces, I mean, when we were with the We Connect You event in Cape Town, they were telling, the average good rental is about 20,000 Rand. And I was thinking, in certain areas, we will think that's high-end rentals, and they think that is entry-level rentals. Just goes to show what happens with the market.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I think also, the one element that for me is very eminent, specifically in the rental market, is your sectional titles as well. And speaking about the high rentals generally will be, your freeholds, where it is relatively higher than sectional title. And I think that's also why, first of all, from an affordability perspective, owners will rather be able to, or will be able to afford in sectional title, but then also that's majority where the rental opportunities also sits. People will buy that either for an investment opportunity or, starting out in a sectional title, and as they move up, they're able to rent that out, and secure a freestanding or an estate property for themselves. And that's why, Elise, you've mentioned relationships again, super important. Your tenant today may become your buyer tomorrow, and your landlord at the same time. So it's all about building that relationship and getting those referrals, in terms of the service that you provide to the individual.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why we say Xpello deals with the breach part, that the relationship is not as strained between a property practitioner and the different parties. Now, there is a question, Esteani. Now, if you've got more slides, I'll give you now time to share them.
Yeah.
Corinne is asking something, and she says, when will Lightstone be able to release owner's details, the cell phone number, and the email address? Is that something that Lightstone is looking at? What is the stance on that?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely available on our system. In our world, it's called Easy Connect. So you can definitely obtain the information on Lightstone. And as we all know, POPIA is real. POPIA is implemented. So we always just need to make sure that we use the data for the relevant use of that information that's compliant with POPIA. But we do have the ability to get owners' details, cell phone numbers, email addresses, anything that is related to that owner. It is available on the system already.
Wow. I don't know if you guys, but I didn't know that. So I think we should give Lightstone a hand clap. Now, where's that reaction button? But Corinne is she says, thank you very much. That's great information, because I do think that does bring, you see, there's the applause. There, we're not the radio, we love it. Before we proceed, I just want to also see, Tebogo asked about if a WhatsApp message is sufficient for a mandate to authorize to act as an agent. And Corinne answered it, and I can see Corinne is also part of the Rental Sphere Club. But I agree, I don't think that's sufficient, Tebogo. Have proper documentation, because a WhatsApp might, yes, you can have, can I lease your property? They send you a thumbs up and you think it's sort of sorted. That's not going to cover you. Just do it the right way. Save yourself some headaches in the front. And as I mentioned that quickly, on our Xpello chat group, we did share the details of the Rental Sphere event that's happening next week. And the reason why I'm promoting that one, sorry, Esteani, it's like a quick advert, is that Jolene Wasserman from VDM will be speaking to Sean, and they're talking about sectional titles, and especially because there's been an increase of the body corporate doesn't pay the utilities, then the municipality comes, they cut the electricity, and now your tenant who's been paying perfectly doesn't have power. And what to do with this, and we've seen a real increase. And the problem is that's not going to be a quick problem to fix, because most of these body corporates are owing more than R500,000 rand. So we had a matter, I think, Robin, I can't remember, but June must probably know about it as well, where the body corporate then turned around and said, no, they put in a generator and everybody's allowed 5 hours of power a day. And I thought, yeah, that's not representing the breach. If I'm a tenant, I would want to move. So, but unfortunately, that's not a free session. It's only for his members. So please go to the link. If you don't have the link, contact myself. I'll share the link. Sign up. His monthly fee is very low. It's going to be absolutely worth his while to join that and get that information. Now, Esteani, what else do you have for us? Or what is your last thoughts that you want to share with us?
Yeah, thanks, Elise. I think the one other element which is very important in the world of real estate is leads. Whether it's sales leads or rental leads, we can't work without new leads. That's our bread and butter. So I think it's also important, or for a real estate agent to work the Lightstone system to understand ownership. So in terms of who in an area, or who owns more than one property. Maybe there's an investor that owns quite a few properties which you haven't had contact with, and you can start engaging that person to be able to assist them to do their rentals. Many a times investors starting out to do the rentals themselves because it's manageable to do maybe 1 or 2 units. But as their portfolio grows, it becomes more imminent that you need a rental agent. And if you're able to engage with that owner or that investor at that point in time, you may just be lucky and get a lot of leads from them or get the entire portfolio to rent out. So, leads is really important. And also, understanding, again, as I've mentioned, in an area where people are moving in and out. So perhaps there's opportunity to look at existing owners that may not fit the profile of a specific area anymore, to try and reach out to them and say, would you mind, are you in the market to move? Or, have you ever thought of moving to an area, let's say, that's more for mature people if they've reached a certain age? So yeah, I think there's so many things to actually derive from data that could help you in your business to generate leads and ultimately make more money. So yeah, that would be something that I just think we shouldn't overlook, the opportunity for leads.
Yeah, I'm going to kick your slides off there. You see how quickly I do that. No shame. But there's Esteani's details. If you guys, I'm going to leave it on the screen quickly. And it's actually saying so much valuable. And I just want to add one thing. If you do your cold calls, and you have identified that owner, maybe instead of asking them, do you want to sell your property? Because I got these type of calls, and the moment they start with my birth names, I know I cold call because nobody will call me on my birth names if they know me. And then they go, do you want to sell? And then I'm just get annoyed. And somebody else said the other day, when you phone, please ask them, did you consider buying another property? That is something that is not a common question. And it sort of makes you think immediately, like, maybe I can be an investor. Is it part of my planning? And I think especially if you ask it that way and say, well, maybe it would be ideal to go buy in a retirement village. No, we're not picking on the old people today. I mean, that's something that can that can pop up. Amanda's asking a question. When may we provide the landlord with the tenant's application of Xpello? Okay, so that's with the vetting process. The TPN speaks about providing information to a credit provider. Is the landlord a credit? So Amanda, remember when you get appointed as the agent to obtain to find a tenant, you're acting on behalf of the landlord. So you have to provide that information to the landlord, because the landlord cannot make an informed decision whether they want to accept that tenant if you do not provide them with all that information. Where the protection comes in is you can't now take that statements and then you see, I see this tenant buys a lot of handbags. I'm going to now give this to my friend because she makes handbags, and then they can phone this tenant to maybe buy her handbags. You can't do that with the information, because that's selling it to people for sales purposes. When you get the information, and even you can take the information, and in part of the process, the consent, the tenant says, I'm applying, I'm giving you information for the purpose to secure this property. You can take that information, you can give it to your landlord, and you can give it to Xpello, because again, we're an extension of the landlord. We are not selling the data. We are not going to phone them and go, do you now want to buy car insurance? Because we all know if we did something, because suddenly you get like 7 calls from people wanting to sell you insurance. That is not going to happen. And if you are going to do that, then you have to get that permission. I hope that helps. Esteani, that is all of the details. I'm so excited. Now I'm going to go onto your website, and I'm very proud to say, Amanda and myself, we are so looking forward. I'm jumping the gun, you see, because things happen first at Xpello. Lightstone is also having a roadshow coming up later in the year, and they're going to travel all over South Africa. And Xpello is going to be honored enough to be part of that roadshow. or I know it's not a roadshow. What's the proper name that you are using, Esteani?
Lightstone seminars.
Yes, the seminars is going to, but we are going to be on the road or in the air, and we're going to be at your destination. So we're going to share, please sign up to their newsletters that you can see where it's at, and reach out to their team. Maybe it is a place to go, have a look again, what they offer, how it can be applicable. Esteani, if they need somebody to come and explain something or how Lightstone works, I assume you guys have people that will help them?
Absolutely, absolutely. Support at lightstone.co.za, info@lightstone.co.za. Yeah, please connect with us. Any questions, any requests, or just wanting to connect and ask anything about Lightstone or whatever, please connect with us. Yeah, we're ready to help.
Fantastic. Esteani, thank you very much for your time today and your knowledge and sharing that with us. We really, really do appreciate it. It's amazing to be aligned with such nice big brands. And then as I say goodbye to Esteani, and we're coming to the end of the day because we know that you guys are super busy, is next month is a big month in Xpello world because it's our birthday month. Now, May month is the month that we celebrate. So it's not our month's birthday. I like this picture. I put him up there because he's joining me on the webinar. Now, Armand is my business partner, and we are very passionate about Xpello. And we want to share some amazing stories, what we've seen. Remember, we've got the benefit of dealing with everybody in South Africa. So we'll tell you some exciting stories, what we've seen in this amazing time period. So we are turning 9. Wow, right? 9 years old. So please join us. There is the QR code and the link if you guys want to scan it so long to sign up and register for next month. That you can join us, and so that's going to be very exciting. If you are new on to the so I did fix that again, the gremlins today should be next webinar 20 May, but there is the breach email, the applications email, which is also, and our portal registration. So if you guys need to contact any of us, please reach out. I always hear how people say that our team is always so helpful. They're always there to help and do everything else. So thank you very much for the time. The recording will be shared. Esteani's contact details, license details will be shared. So please reach out, and thank you to everyone for attending.